Okay, so today we are going to learn about AWS RDS. Okay, so I'll share my screen. Okay, today we are going to learn about AWS RDS. So RDS stands for Relational Database Service. Okay, so Relational Database Service is one of the service which manages the relational database. Okay, in AWS. Okay, so we'll see what is RDS and what are the different options that we get in RDS in AWS. Okay, so before going to that, uh, so we have seen what is database in our previous class, right? So if you want to store your data in a relational database, what you will do is like we have installed a relational database, okay, in our local machines, and then we have created some tables there, and we try to connect to the database using some backend like Node.js and all. Okay, so for every application, so database is one of the important thing. So it stores like where we stores the data. So mostly like now mostly used databases are called relational databases. So based on our requirements and all, we'll choose the databases. But most of the applications which are running now, okay, are mostly like using relational databases. Okay, relational database is something where the data is stored in tables and columns. Okay, so we have already created a MySQL database in our local machines. Okay, but if you want to create a relational database in your AWS, okay, AWS cloud, so what we can do is like we can either take a instance, okay, EC2 instance, and we can install our database there. Okay, and we can connect to the database which is installed in the EC2 server. So if you do that, what we need to do is like we need to manage the database by our own. So we need to install it, we need to start it, and we need to do, if you want to do any configurations, we need to do the configurations there, and everything we need to set up by our own. So if you install a okay database server in your EC2 instance, and we need to open the port there and all. Okay, so if you say like you have done or created a database in your EC2 instance and you're using it. So if there is any scaling issues, say like your application is getting like too many requests and your database load is getting more. So then the CPU usage will be getting high, okay, and that lead to sometimes okay the collapse of this relational database server. Okay, so instead of getting out of all those headaches and all, like managing all those and all, so we have a service called RDS where the AWS is predefinedly managing. Okay, it's completely managing the database servers and just it is giving us the database as a service. Okay, so we don't need to worry about all the loads and all. So that AWS will take care of all these loads. That we need to just configure it and we can use it. Okay, we'll see one by one like what is RDS and what are the different options and what are the different features. Okay, what are the advanced features in RDS? Okay, so Amazon RDS, let's go on with the overview. So first we'll go with some overview. What are the different features that are available in AWS? We'll see one by one, and then we'll go with the hands-on session like creating an RDS database. Okay, so RDS stands for Relational Database Service. Okay, so it is a managed DB service for DB use like SQL query, which uses SQL query language. So we have already learned what is SQL query language, right? So if we are creating some tables, we are inserting some data. Okay, so all this operations which we do, okay, on the database, we are using SQL as a query language. Okay, we can use create, insert, select, okay, all this, okay, queries to insert or create or select the data from the database. Okay, so it is RDS is also using the same SQL as a query language. Okay. So in RDS, it allows like you can create databases in the cloud that are managed by the ADS like Postgres, MySQL, MariaDB, Oracle, Microsoft SQL Server, and Aurora. Okay, all these databases like you can be able to create in RDS. And Aurora is one of the database which is like owned by AWS. So it has some few other better features which has better performance than other databases, other relational databases, because Aurora is one of the optimized database for AWS cloud. They have took some MySQL and PostgreSDB, and they have done some internal changes in that. They have optimized that, and they have kept it AWS cloud. Okay, in the AWS cloud. Okay, so mainly we need to understand like, so AWS will be supporting all this. AWS RDS will be supporting all these databases. Okay, so we can create any of these databases in AWS RDS and we can use it. So what are the advantages using RDS or deploying the DB in EC2? So as we said earlier, so either we can create a EC2 instance and we can install our databases in our EC2 instance. So but what is the use of using RDS service? So we'll see one by one. So RDS is a managed service. That means it is automatically provisioned and OS patching. So what we can do is, so in RDS, like the installation and all, so the installation of the database, okay, the configuration of the database, and if there is any OS patching, so that can be done, that will be done by RDS itself. So we no need to do all that. Okay, so continuous backup and restore to specify to a specific timestamp. So RDS will take over, so RDS will handle all the backup. Okay, the backup process will be handled by the RDS. So we don't need to worry about writing another scripts or something or using another tools to take the backup of our database. And whenever there is a disaster or something, if you want to recover a database when it is stopped, so you can restore your database to any specific time. Okay, so any point of time you can restore your database from the backups. Okay, so and we have monitoring dashboards. So RDS will also provide some monitoring dashboard where we can see so what is the time, at what time we are getting high load on our database, and on like what is the CPU usage, and what at what time we are getting more number of requests, and where we are getting like most CPU occupying queries. Okay, so we can see all the monitoring dashboards, so which will be used as to like read analytics of our dashboards, and read replicas for improved read performance. So RDS supports read replicas. RDS provides a features called read replicas. Okay, so we'll be learning about these read replicas in the coming slides. So there are different types of replicas. So we'll be going about the read replicas in deep in the coming slides. Okay, so multi-AZ, so multi-availability zone setup for disaster recovery. So this is like, so your database will be set up in different availability zones. So if there is any disaster in one availability zone, your data will be safe in the other availability zones. So we no need to worry about the okay durability or the security about your data. Okay, so RDS can spread the disaster recovery servers in multi-availability zones. So that is like that can be done in a single click. Okay, so if you are using an EC2 instance, then you need to create a EC2 instance in one availability zone, and we need to create another EC2 in other availability zone, and we need to manually install all this database related softwares and patches and all in all your EC2 instance. But when you use RDS, like it will manage and it will take care of this disaster recovery also. Okay, so maintenance window for updates. So RDS will like automatically upgrade your like if you want to upgrade your database or something, like it will automatically upgrade it in the background. So you don't need to do it manually. So if there is any OS patches or security updates, you can just okay. So if there is any security patches or something, you can like RDS will take care of it and it will upgrade it. Okay, and scaling capabilities. So if you are using the EC2 instance, like whenever the CPU usage or the disk usage or something which got like high, we need to manually deploy another EC2 instance and you need to take care of this cluster and all. Okay, so but in RDS, like whatever storage you are using or whatever load you are using, in the background, like RDS will set up its own environment and it will give you seamless like database which will never get down. Okay, so it will take care of all the loads. Okay, whenever the CPU usage is high, whenever the database usage is high, it will add some servers in the background and it will maintain the okay uh, durability. Okay, and it will scale automatically in the background. So you don't need to worry about the scaling factor. Okay, of your database. Storage back Storage backed by EBS. So the storage which is used in the RDS is EBS. So whenever your storage is high, so RDS will automatically increase the storage. So you can also set a limit to what the storage like so whatever storage the RDS need to scale. You can set a limit for that and RDS will scale automatically based on the data which is getting into your database. Okay, so these are the advantages of using RDS instead of EC2. And one thing is, so in EC2 instance, you can directly use PuTTY or AWS Connect to SSH into the instance and you can see all the files. But when you are using an RDS, you cannot log in into the instance. Okay, so in the background, like this database will be installed in EC2 instance and it will be available for you as a service, but you will not be able to log in into that particular instance. Okay, you can connect to only the database command line through command line, but you cannot connect into the EC2 instance, which is where the RDS is installed. Okay, so this is one thing you need to remember. Okay, so going to next thing. So what is storage auto scaling? So RDS will automatically scale its storage. Okay, so helps you to increase storage on your RDS DB instance dynamically. For example, if you take here, we have a RDS, okay, database here, and we have an application here, and all the users are using these applications and they're giving some data into the applications. And RDS DB is storing that in a storage. So whenever there is a high data usage or whenever there is a high data input, RDS will automatically so increase its storage. So we no need to worry about the storage when you are using RDS. So RDS will scale the storage, okay, and it will manage the storage. Okay. So when RDS detects you are running out of free database storage, it scales automatically. So we no need to do anything manually. So avoid manual scaling to your database storage. So we don't need to do any manual storage expansion. That means we don't need to do any volume expansion. We don't need to add any other volumes to your database. RDS will take care of this. Okay. You have to set a maximum storage threshold. Okay. So we need to, so if your applications, if you want to specify like you can, the RDS can expand the storage, but it must not exceed like 1000 GB. You can set a value as 1000, so the storage will stop at 1000 GB. It won't exceed more than 1000 GB. Okay, so you can set a maximum storage threshold limit. Okay, so automatically modifies storage if the free storage is less than 10% of allocated storage. So based on this particular scenarios or based on this particular use cases, so then the automatically the modifying of your storage will be done in RDS. So first thing is free storage is less than 10% of allocated storage. Say like if your database is like 10 GB, so whenever it crosses 90 GB, that means like when there is only 10% of allocated storage is there, so then it will expand. Okay, low storage lasts at least 5 minutes. Okay, and 6 hours has passed since the last modification. So based on these three, okay, it will do its automatic scaling for the storage. So this is useful for the applications with unpredictable workloads. So whenever we have an applications like we don't know like what data, like how much GB of data we'll get. So we cannot predict this workload, the data workload. So then we can use RDS and it will be useful there. And it supports all the database engines. So including MariaDB, MySQL, PostgreSQL, SQL Server, and Oracle for all these relational databases. So this auto scaling of the storage will be supported. Okay. So one thing you need to remember is RDS can auto scale the storage by its own. So we no need to do anything manually, and we can set a limit like to how much storage threshold it can expand. So coming to the read replicas. So RDS has read replicas for read scalability. Okay. So it can read up to 15 read replicas we can add to our RDS. So within availability zone and cross region or uh, cross availability zone or cross region, we can add these read replicas. Okay. So replication is async. So reads are eventually consistent. So what is this read replicas? Okay, so let us take an application. So for example, we can take a Wikipedia as an example. Okay, so when you see this Wikipedia, the people who contributes the data in Wikipedia are less, right? So the people who enters the data in Wikipedia website are very less, but the people who reads the Wikipedia website are eventually very more. Say like if 5% people are contributing data in Wikipedia, 95% of people use Wikipedia only to read the data in Wikipedia, right? So then what happens is number of reads is more than number of writes, okay, in our database. Okay, you understand my point, right? So reads is something like a select query, writes is something like insert query. Okay, so insert queries will be less when compared to select. In like most of the applications, if you see like the people who reads the applications will be more instead of the people who contributes the content in the application. Okay, in that case, we need to have some other like we need to have more capable database which have more like which can give better output when we use select commands or reads. Okay, so to overcome this, we can use read replicas. Okay, so for example, if you say this is our application, say like this is a Wikipedia application or something. Okay, so it will be connected to a master instance. Okay, this master instance is something which takes the data from the application. So means this application will writes the data into this master database instance. Okay, all the writes will be happened in this master database instance. And initially we have initially we have only one database here. So just assume we have only one database here for the applications where the writes and the reads are happening. Okay, so my application is getting too many reads, okay, and my CP is getting too much high. So what I can do is for these reads I can create a other replica. So the replica is something, this R is something a read replica. So what this read replica does, when you create a read replica, it will take a copy of your master instance and create another instance. Okay, and similarly you can create another. So you can create like here you can see like you can create 15 read replicas. So here what we can do is here it will created two, here we created two read replicas. So what happens is your application reads will be going to these three okay instances now. So now we can get like better performance because we have three database servers and we can get the data from all these three databases. Okay, but writes will be happened only to this master instance. Okay, and between this master and the read replicas, there will be an asynchronous replication. So that means if you insert any data in this master instance, that will be automatically replicated to these two read replicas, and it will be available in these read replicas. And this will be done asynchronously, and there will be a little lag of getting data into this read replicas from the master after writing data into this. Okay, after writing data into this particular master. Okay, so this is our master instance, and here we are creating our read replicas. Okay, here we are creating our read replicas and we are replicating the data into this read replicas. So whenever the application is putting some select queries in our database, so this read replicas also will give this response. For each read replica, we will get a separate endpoints if you want. Okay, so this is what we call as read replicas. Okay, replication can be replicas can be promoted to their own database. So this is one thing. So say like by because of some reasons this master instance got down. Okay, so what happens is whenever this master instance got down, we can promote any of these read replicas as master instance. Okay, so because all this data which is available in the master is also available in this read replicas. So whenever there is an issue in this RDS master instance, so then we can promote this read replica as a master, and this will the writes will be happening in this. Okay, in this particular instance, and the data will be replicating to other read replicas from this instance. So this is replicas can be promoted to their own database. So applications must update the connection string to leverage read replicas. So as I said, this read replicas will get a separate connection string. So we are connecting to our database using a connecting string. Okay. So with that connection, we are executing these queries, right? So these read replicas will also get a separate, okay, endpoints or connection points. So we can use that connection points in our applications, and you can connect to this read replicas, and you can select the data from your this read replicas, and you can use it in our applications. Okay. So this you need to understand one thing is main thing. This read replicas you can run only select queries. You cannot run any other queries. Okay, you can only read the data from the read replicas. You cannot put any operations like insert or update or delete commands in our read replicas. All these other writes or updates will be done only in the master, and it will be replicated to the read replicas. Okay, so we'll see in depth of these read replicas. So what is the use cases of using read replicas? We'll see a use case. So here you have a production database that is taking a normal load. So say like this is your production database. So that is taking a normal load from your product application. It is writing the data into your master application, and it is performing some reads on this database. And you want to run a reporting applications to run some analytics. Okay, so you need to run some reporting application which is runs on this data to get some analytics. Okay, so you create a read replica to run a new workload there. So instead of connecting your reporting application to your master database instance, because we don't know how much load this application will put on this master database. Okay, so if there is any other load, so the load will be increased in this master instance, and this will affect this production application. But we don't need to, but we don't want, and we don't take a risk to, okay, make our production disturb our production application. So what we can do is we will see the production application is unaffected because so to make this production application to go down and to increase load on this application. So to avoid load on this application, what we'll do is we'll create a read replica of this particular RDS instance, and this will be asynchronously replicated. and we'll perform the read applications, okay, read operations on this read replica, and we'll put the data in our reporting applications, because reporting is something which only selects the data, right? Report is something like which will get the data from the database and we'll show it in the reporting application. So there won't be any inserts or updates or something operations. So what we'll do is we'll create a read replica and we'll connect our reporting applications to this read replica and we'll perform the operations here. So what happens is this will not affect your production application because there is no load that is being putting on the master instance. Okay. So whatever data we are getting into master instance, that will be replicating to this read replicas, and this reporting application is using this read replica. Okay. So read replicas are used for select. Okay, only kind of statements, not insert, update, or delete. So these SQL queries, like we cannot run in read replicas, we can only run select in read replicas. Okay, so this is one of the use case. And RDS read replicas, okay, what is the network cost? So in AWS, there is network cost where data goes from one availability zone to another. So whenever you're transferring your data from one availability zone to another availability zone in any service in AWS, you will be paying for that. So we'll be like for the data transfer, you need to pay some. Okay, whenever you're doing some data transfer between two different availability zones. But for RDS read replicas within the same region, you don't need to pay. So that is for free. So whenever there is like two availability zone within the same region, so that is like if you are in, okay, US East 1 and US East 1B. So these two availability zones are in US East region. So whenever you are using, okay, the data transfer between replication between, so the replication means what, like the data in the master will be transferred to the data in the replica, right? So this transfer, okay, will not, we like uh, we no need to pay for this transfer of data whenever these two, okay, database instances are in the same region. So this here, it is in US East region, we have two availability zones, US East 1A and 1B, and the data is getting transferred from 1A to 1B, which are in the same region. So it won't be like charging us. AWS won't charge for this. So, but when you are using two availability zones which are in the different regions. So here we have US East 1A and US East 1B. So this is in region US East and this is in US West. So if you are using two different availability zones in different regions, then the data transfer between the master and the read replica, so will be charged some cost for that data transfer. Okay, so we need to keep this in mind because like we need to build some cost effective architectures, right? And RDS multi-availability zone disaster recovery. So what is this RDS multi-availability zone? So in the previous slides we have seen RDS supports multi-AZ. So multi-AZ means like your data will be shared between multiple availability zones. So if there is any disaster recovery happens, then we will be safe with our data. So between these availability zones also, multi-availability zone also, we have asynchronous replication. So one DNS name, so automatic app failover to standby. So we'll see what is this. So increase availability and failover in case of loss of availability zone, loss of network, and instance or storage failure. So no manual intervention in the apps, not used for scaling. So say like here, just take this as an example. So here we have an application and here we have a master database. Okay, here we have a master database. So what happens is your application is connecting to your master, okay, with one DNS name. Okay, so instead of connecting directly to your master instance, we have one DNS name, right? So whenever we are using So this is your master DB is in availability zone A, and your so this is slave, something like a standby database. Okay, so this is not a read replica. So understand this. So if read replica is mentioned with R, so what happens is you have a master database, and with we have a standby database in our B availability zone. Okay, and we have one endpoint or one DNS name where the application is connecting to the master instance. Okay, so what is the use of putting this standby instance for your applications? So say like this is your availability zone A and availability zone B, you are having a standby database, and your application is using the master DB in the beginning. And so whenever there is an issue or any disaster in our availability zone A, so whenever this master is getting down, so you can promote this standby as your master, and this will be used for the application, use it for your application. Okay, so we have one DNS name for this both. Okay, you can create a standby database for your master instance. Okay, whenever your master instance is having some issue, so then automatically it will get shut down, and this standby database will be created as a master database, and it will serve your application. Okay, so the replication between master and standby will be synchronous. Okay, synchronous application. Okay, the master and read, the replication between master and the read replicas will be asynchronous. Okay, because so that like we will have like some delay of getting data from master to read replicas. But when you are using a standby database, okay, so the replication is synchronous, and every data which gets into the master instance immediately, okay, gets into the standby database. Okay, so whenever your application is unable to connect to master instance, or when the master instance get down, so immediately the standby database will be act as a master database, and it will keep your applications running without any, okay, downtime. So the so failover in case of loss of availability zone or loss of network or instance storage failure. So in any of these cases, okay, whenever the master instance gets failed, then the standby database will come into place and keep your applications up. So they need, so here we no need to do any manual interventions. So everything RDS will be taking care of all these operations. So, and this is not used for scaling, right? So we are not scaling our applications. We are just keeping it our application durability. So this is used for the durability, but not for the scaling. So here what the size of the master will be same as the size of the slave. So here there is no point of talking about scalability. It is about the durability or high availability of the application and the database. Okay. So here one note is the read replicas when is set as multi-AG for disaster recovery. Okay. So here you can see the read replicas can be set up as a multi-AG for disaster recovery. That means like when we have a read replica, so we can promote that read replica as a standby database. Okay, that is about the multi-AG future. Okay, and this is one thing how we convert this multi-AG single AG to multi-AG. So single AG means something we are keeping our database in one availability zone. Okay, so multi-zone is something we are keeping our database in multiple availability zones or creating a standby. Okay, so creating a standby is called a multi-availability zones. So what are the advantages? Zero downtime operations. So we no need to down our database. We need to stop our database to create a standby database. It will be created on the fly. Okay, so just click on the, we have an option called modifying the databases, and we can do this following steps to create a multi-availability zone. So a shop. So what happens when we create a standby database, or when we change the single AG RDS database to multi-AG, what happens in the background we'll see now. Okay, First thing, this is our master database instance. Okay, so whenever you say you want to promote this RDS database to from single availability zone to multiple availability zone, what it do is it takes a snapshot of your DB. So that means it will take a copy of your DB. So we have seen about the snapshots in our EC2 and all, right? So it will take a snapshot of your DB and it will create a DB instance in other availability zone, okay, from this snapshot. And while creating this DB snapshot and while creating this standby database, at this point of time, also there will be some data that will be inserted into this database, right? Okay, so that remaining data will be synced to this replication. Through this replication, it will be synced to the standby database. Okay, so then we have all the data which is in the master instance in our standby instance. And whenever the new data is coming into this master instance, the synchronous replication will be done through this standby application, standby database. Okay, so a snapshot is taken, a new database is restored from the snapshot in new availability zone. This will be created in other availability zone because as we are promoting it to multiple AC. Okay, and synchronization is established between the two databases. So now these two databases will be in sync, and whenever there is an issue with this master instance, then this standby database will come into the place and it will keep your application running. Okay, so this is how we promote a single availability RDS from single availability zone to multiple availability zones with a single click in AWS. So all this happens with a single click. You need to understand that. Okay, we know we are not doing this manually. We are just seeing here what happens internally only. So when we just go to RDS options and just click on promote to multiple AC, and all this will be happen in the background through by AWS. Okay, so that's on for the theory part. So now let's get to the hands-on part. Okay, I'll open this management console and we'll see how we'll create a RDS database and how we'll use it. Okay, so here I'm signing into my console. So I'm logging with a root user. Okay, so here we'll search for RDS. So this is our RDS service. We're opening this. So this is how it looks when you open this RDS, and there is no databases as of now. So we'll create a database. Either you can create from here or you can go to these databases and you can click on create database. Okay, so I'll click on create database. So this is how it looks. So here we have two options. One is standard create or easy create. So easy create, you will have very less steps. So we'll go to the standard create because I want to show you like what are the different options which are available here. We'll go through one by one options and we'll understand all this. So we'll go with standard create. And here we have different types of database engines. So here you can select any type of database. So all these databases are available in RDS. Okay. So this Aurora compatible MySQL and Postgres. This is exclusively that which is optimized version of MySQL and optimized version of Postgres SQL for AWS cloud. So, and this is MySQL, MariaDB, Postgres, Oracle, and MySQL, Microsoft SQL Server. So all these RDS relational databases are available in RDS. So we'll go with MySQL first. So I'm selecting MySQL. So when you select this database, here you have all the versions available. So if you want to choose any specific version, so by default, like the stable version, the latest stable version will be selected here. So if you want to, okay, select any other database version, you can keep here. And here we have some options, right? So based on this, like some versions will be supporting multi-AC, and some version will be supporting the RDS optimized rates. So if you check this, so here we can see only the versions which supports multi availability zone DB cluster future. Okay, only this version will be supporting this multi-AC in MySQL. Okay, so based on these options, here the version will be selected. So here what I'll do is I'll go with this default stable version 8.0.33. Okay, so, and because this also supports multi-AC. Okay, so here we have three options, like you can choose a template. So if are you using this for a production, okay, so are you using for the development or a free type. So based on this, like here if you can see, if you select this production, this by default uses for high availability and fast consistent performance. So some options will be placed according to this. Okay, so for now, to keep this, we'll go with the development. Okay, so here we have, options like if you want to create a multi-AG DB instance or a single DB instance. So for now we'll create a single DB instance. Okay, so we can give a name here. Okay, so this is the name for a just a DB RDS instance. So here you can give the username for your database and here the password. Okay, so here I'll give a password. So if you remember, like when we are creating our uh, database on your own, like when we install our database, MySQL database in a local system, we have created a root password, a root user and a password. Like similarly here we need to create a root user and password. So here we are giving the password. I think we need to have some lengthy password. Okay, so we cannot use at the rate in our password. Okay, so these things we cannot use this in the password. The slash or single quotes or double quotes or at the rate, we cannot use that as a in our password. Okay, so coming to down here, you can choose an RDS instance. So what type of instance you want to install this? Okay, particular RDS. So here we are using. So here we have different types of standard classes. So I'll leave about this. Just select burstable classes. We'll see about them later. So here, like we are getting different types of instances. Okay, where you can install your RDS. Okay, so for now I'll take this T3 micro. Okay, now we'll give this, we have 2 GB RAM and 2 virtual CPUs. Okay, here you can, so coming to the storage part here, so see here, so the allocated storage, so what is the allocated storage you want, you can just give it here. So here I'm giving like for 40 GB. Okay, so for the selected instance we need to give at least 100 GB. Okay, so here we are giving is the initial, like initially how much storage your database need, you need to mention here. Okay, so and coming here, like you can give the maximum, okay, storage threshold. So whenever the database is getting optimized and whenever the data is getting more, so the RDS will automatically expand its storage. So automatically scales the storage. And so here you can limit to that storage. So if you give 1000 GB, your database will not exceed more than 1000 GB here. You can set a maximum threshold here. So here we have the connectivity issues. Just you can keep it like this. Okay, here like we can select, if you want to select any other subnets or all, we can choose it here. So we'll see this in the what are the subnets and what is VPC in our VPC classes. So for now, just leave it default. Okay, so here you can click on public access. You want to publicly access or you want to access your RDS only within AWS private network. So if I want to connect through internet, I need to select this yes. Okay. So here we can create a security group. So security group, like we have seen what is security groups in EC2 section, right? So similarly, we need to create a security group, and here this security group will act as a firewall for your database. And here we can restrict so through which IPs we can connect to your RDS instance. Okay. So what are the ports that can be opened? So what are the different IPs that can access your database instance, and everything you can, okay, mention in this security group. And coming down, you can leave all this as same. So there are three types of authentications to connect to your database. One is the password authentication. So with the by using the password which you have created earlier, either we can connect to that. We can also create a password and IAM database authentication, and we can have a Kerberos authentication. So we have these three different types of, okay, options to connect to our database, but we are using this password authentication for now. And here we have this monitoring. So if you want to disable the monitoring, you can disable it, and everything is fine. So here I think we need to change this instance. So standard class. Okay. So here, like, just check this, include previous generation classes also. Then we will get all this T2 medium and all small servers. So so when you select this, see here, based on all this, okay, configurations here, it will show you what is the estimated cost for your RDS for each month. Okay, so for now I'll select a small server because like we are not storing any data in this now. So we'll go to this here, just check this, include previous generation classes, so that it will show all the instances. And here we'll be selecting T2 micro. So this is the smallest server. Okay, so here if you see, so here it is saying, so this is the estimated cost for your RDS DB for each month for all the configurations which you have given above. Okay, so here we'll go and we'll create a database here. So we are creating a database here. So we'll check all this once again. So now our database is created and it is deploying here. So it is getting created here. So meanwhile, like what we'll use, we'll just click on this and see. So here we have monitoring, logs, configuration, maintenance, and backup and tags. Okay. So once the database is created, we'll get an endpoint for that. So we go to databases here, it's still creating. So see here, it has created in AP South 1B. So the database name which we have given is this one. And meanwhile, what we can do is we can go to our EC2, EC2. So if you go here, see here. So we have created a database there, RDS database here, and we have selected instance there to create a database. So now we have one database here. So see here we have created this in AP South 1B region. Okay. So that means we have created in AP South means like we have created a RDS database in our Mumbai region. Okay. So when you go to our EC2 again, so we cannot see any instances there for now. See here. So because like we cannot SSH into that particular RDS instance. Okay. So we can only use this RDS, okay, by connecting to this connection string, but we cannot SSH into any of this EC2 server. So that is one thing you need to understand. So it's still creating. So what it will do is it will install the particular, it will launch in EC2 instance. It will install the MySQL Community Edition in that instance. It will start that MySQL server, and it will give a connection, and will create a connection variable, and it will give that connection variable to us. So this will take a few minutes. Let's wait. Meanwhile, we'll see what are the different options here. So here we have the connectivity and the security thing. So here we'll get the endpoints. Once the database is set up, we'll get the endpoint, so which will be used to connect to this database. Here we have all the networking things, network related data, and so here our security group will come here when it is created. Coming to monitoring, here we'll have all the CloudWatch monitors once the database is set up. See here, now it is configuring enhanced monitoring. So the setup is done, the creation is done. Now it is configuring the, we have enabled the monitoring, right? So it is configuring this monitoring part. So now see here. So now we have got an endpoint here. So that means we can connect to this particular RDS using this endpoint on this port. Okay. So meanwhile, what we can do is we'll open our MySQL workbench. Okay. So we'll open our MySQL workbench here. So we'll create a new connection. Saying, so the connection name will be, so this is our connection host AWS RDS. This is our host name, and it is running on the port 3. This is the port where the RDS is running, and the username is admin. Give the password here. test the connection. So see here, so successfully connected. So we'll click on OK, and we'll go here again and see like everything is configured or not. We'll see here. So see, it is creating a backup, initial backup for the first backup. Okay, so we open this. So this is our AWS RDS. When you open this, so it is, see now it is connected to our RDS database. So this is our RDS database, where here we can create a databases here. So I'll create my DB and click on apply. So this will create a schema. So see here, now we can use this database and you can create some tables and you can use this. Okay, similarly you can use this particular endpoint. So in the Node.js part, when we learned this Node.js part, in the db config file we have given an IP and a port. So instead of this IP we can give this endpoint and we can give this port, and we can give this username and password, and we can connect to this RDS and we can run our applications here. Okay, see, like I think within minutes we have created a database and we got our endpoint and we just connected it and we are using it. We have not done any configuration. We just done a configuration for our AWS configuration only. Like we have not done any database configuration here, right? So if you go here, we'll see. So this is our endpoint. So these are the security groups. So here by default my IP address is allowed. Okay, because with this IP, I have created this RDS instance. So this IP is allowed, and here like it is allowing outbound rules for all other traffic. So only inbound it is allowing only my IP address. Okay, so if you want, you can change this security group and you can allow different, and you can allow any other IPs and all. You can allow all the traffic to your database so that you can connect your database from any IP. Okay, but mostly like connecting to database directly. Okay, so save rules. So now my database will be able to connect to any applications through on any internet. Okay, on the internet. So again, I'll go to. So here, see, we cannot see any RDS instance here, but we have a security group. Okay, but that instance will not be shown here. So we'll go to the RDS again. So we have created a database. We have connected to the database. Okay, with MySQL workbench, and we'll see what are the different features available in RDS now. So this is our database instance. So we'll open this, and these are the basic information about this RDS. Okay, so when we go to the monitoring part, so he will get all the monitoring related aspects here. So what is the free storage space? So what is the free memory? What is the database connections? What is the number of database connections? What is the CPU utilization that is being used? Okay, so everything, so every monitoring of your database you can see here. Okay. So logs and events. So we can see all the logs here. So of this database. So here you see. So instance is created. So monitoring interval change it to for every 60 seconds. So backing up the database instance. Finish DB instance. So it is create. So you see. So what are the logs and events that is being created or generated in this database, RDS database, that you can see here. Okay. So here the main thing is like this maintenance and backup. So when coming to this backup here, so see here we have a snapshot which is taken now. So we have enabled the automatic. So by default the backup will be enabled for 7 days. So that means like the last 7 days data that will be available for you. Yeah, so you can go to any point of time in the last 7 days and you can restore the data there. Okay. So this is one thing. So this backups and all also that will be maintained by the AWS only. So we no need to do any manual interventions for this backup part and all. So AWS will take the backup as its own and it will keep the snapshots here. So you can uh, restore your database if there is any issue. Then you can restore the database from any of the snapshots and you can get the database back. Okay. So if you click on modify here and if you go down, so here you can also change if you want to increase the see if you don't want any backups, so then you can just keep it as 0. So that means like it won't take any backups of your RDS database. So if you want to maintain, like you can keep from 1 to 35 days. You can keep the last 35 days backup of this. You can choose any of this number of days you can based on your requirement, and you can also choose a specific time at which time the backup need to be taken. So that means like mostly in the night time or every day in the early morning. So you can specify a particular time, so then only the backup will be happened. Okay, so this is one thing. So you can either choose for the backup or you can deny for the backup. So now our database available, and here you can see what is the CPU usage and what are the number of connections. So here we are connected already through MySQL database, MySQL workbench. So here it is showing like it is already connected to an application. Okay, so now our database is ready, and we can use this database, and we can connect to this database from our applications, and we can store the data here. You can just this is like similarly like what we have done in our MySQL database. It will similarly work like that. You can create tables, you can create indexes, you can create multiple tables, and you can run all the SQL queries on this database. Okay, so that's it. This is about RDS. Okay, so this is how we create RDS database and we'll use it. Okay, so when coming to here, we have some options here. So we can convert to multi available zone. So as I said, so when we want to promote our RDS from single availability zone to multi availability zone, then by the single click this RDS will be converted to multiple availability zones. Okay, you can start temporarily, you can reboot it, you can delete it. Okay, so you can create a read replica for this. So when you click on this read replica, so a read replica will be created and it will give you a separate endpoint for the read replica where you can use that endpoint for your reads in our application. Okay, so you can take a snapshot, and before, like if you want to delete this, that means like so for now you don't want to use this database, but like in coming days again, if you want to deploy it, you can take a snapshot of the database, and you can delete it. So whenever you want to create the same database again, you can create the same database from the snapshot. Okay, so if you want to restore your database to any particular point of time, okay, then you can restore it to that point. Okay, so all these options, these are being provided by the RDS. So if you click on modify, again you will go to the same configuration page where you can modify the okay configuration of this particular RDS database. Okay, mostly if you create a read replica here, so what this will do is it will take a snapshot of your database and it will create a new database and it will use it as a read replica. So database identifier name is RDS read replica demo 1. So here it will ask like all the configuration details where we want to create your read replica. So what is the server you want to create for the read replica, and what region you want to create the read replicas, and what is the maximum storage, and all the things it will ask the same things. So this is similar to the database creation only, but we have a less options here. So when you create a read replica, it will create a read replica and it will give a separate endpoint where we can use that endpoint only to run select queries. Okay, so here it is using the same security group. So whatever security group we are using for the RDS, so we are using for the read replica. We can use it for the read replica. So we can create a single DB. This is also a single DB, and we'll try to create the read replica. So here see, so here this is our database, and we are creating a new read replica. So here it is creating, and see here it is modifying thing, because this database also need to modify few things because it need to replicate the data to this read replica, right? So there must be some changes that need to happen in this particular database also. So now when we create a read replica, so it is taking a snapshot of this particular database and it is creating another database, other database server, and from there it is copying all the data to this. Okay, and after creating of this database, it's synchronous. Okay, synchronization will be happen between these two, and we can get a separate endpoint for this. See here, we will get another endpoint for this. So we'll wait for 5 minutes. So this will be created. So similarly, like you can create any number of read replicas for this. Okay. So while it is creating, we have some other slides we need to cover about the RDS Aurora. We'll see them. Okay. So we have successfully done the hands-on. So there is one more thing called RDS custom. Okay. So managed Oracle and MySQL Server database with OS and database customizations. So in the previous slide we have seen, we said that whenever we create an RDS database, we will not be able to SSH into the EC2 instance. Okay, but we have another option called RDS custom. So with this RDS custom, what we can do is we can actually SSH into the EC2 instances to make some configurational changes. Okay, so this is available in RDS custom. So, and this is also available only for the Oracle and the MySQL Server database only. So for MySQL or PostgreSQL, we won't be able to use this RDS custom and SSH into the EC2 instance, because for Oracle and SQL Server there will be a lot of OS level configurations and patches that need to be done. So for that we will use this RDS custom, so which gives us options to SSH into the EC2 instance, and we can do some OS level patching and changes. So automatically set up operations and scaling of database in AWS. So in custom, what happens is in RDS it automatically set up operation scaling of the database will be done. In RDS custom, the access to underlying database and OS, so you can configure settings, install patches, enable native features, and access the underlying EC2 instance using SSH or SSM session manager. So you can actually do all this using AWS custom logging into the EC2 instance. Okay, you can deactivate automation mode to perform your customization. Better to take a DB snapshot before you doing this. Okay, so RDS versus RDS custom. What happens is in RDS, entire database and all the OS to be managed by the AWS. So AWS will manage all this. In RDS custom, what happens is, so full admin access will be given underlying for the databases user. So who are creating this RDS, so they will get full admin access for the underlying operating system also. Okay, so here you'll get only the DB level admin permissions. So in RDS custom, you will get the server level admin permissions. And coming to Aurora. So as I said, Aurora is a proprietary technology from AWS. So it is not an open source. So Postgres and MySQL are both supported as Aurora DB. That means your drivers will work as if Aurora was a Postgres or MySQL database. So you can use the same SQL languages and queries and all the functions which are used in Postgres and MySQL in the Aurora. Okay, so Aurora is AWS cloud optimized and claims 5 times better performance improvements over MySQL and RDS. So if you use MySQL and if you use MySQL Aurora, so it gives 5 times better performance and over 3 times performance than Postgres. Okay, so instead of using this Postgres and MySQL, if you use AWS Aurora, it gives more than 5 times speed and by 5 times better performance than using normal MySQL. Okay, so Aurora storage automatically grows and increase to from 10 GB up to 128 terabytes. So this is very huge, right? So it can go from 10 GB to 128 GB, 128 terabytes. Okay, Aurora can have up to 15 replicas and replication process is faster than MySQL. So the replication, so which is being done in MySQL. So the database which we created now is a MySQL database, right? So when you use Aurora instead of this MySQL database, so you can create 15 read replicas and the replication process is fast when compared to this MySQL. So Fairowl Aurora is instantaneous, it's high availability. So Aurora by default comes with high availability. So, and as it is getting all these features and fast, Aurora cost more than RDS. So, if you are using MySQL and if you are using Aurora, so Aurora will be cost more, like almost 20% more than normal MySQL because it is like giving better performance. Obviously, it has a high cost. Okay. So Aurora have high availability. How it works is, so say like 6 copies of your database across 3 availability zones. So it will keep 6 copies of your available of your database. That means like say like we have 3 availability zones, and in each availability zone it will keep two copies of all your database. Okay. So whenever you do any operations, so this will be replicating. So whenever you insert the data into your master instance, all the data will be replicated to different availability zones, and it will be available to read from this read replicas. Okay, so one Aurora instance takes writes, that is this master instance. So automatic failover for the master in less than 30 seconds. So whenever this master get fails, so immediately in 30 seconds, so any of this read replica will be promoted as master, and that will receive the writes and it will write the data into this database. So, and you can put master plus up to 15 Aurora read replicas. Okay, and it also supports cross region replication. So these are the features like which is provided by the AWS Aurora. Okay, and we have one more thing. So here Aurora DB cluster. So what happens is, so whenever we create an Aurora DB cluster, here for the master we have writer endpoints and the reader endpoints. Okay, so whenever you insert a data into from client, so instead of connecting to this master instance directly, we will connect to a writer endpoint. Okay, so this will write the data into the shared volume. Okay, so similarly, to connect to this read replica, instead of connecting to the read replica, we will connect to a reader endpoint, and this reader endpoint is connected to different read replicas. Okay, so whenever the client is requesting this reader endpoint, it will go to any of the reader instance, and it will get the data and it will give the data to the client. Why this reader endpoints is used, we are using this reader endpoints is, so when we want to put more number of read replicas and based on the load, so we can automatically scale the read replicas and we can have only one endpoint. So this is similar to the easy to load balancers. So we have one endpoint and different instances. Similarly, in the read replicas, we have one reader endpoint and we have more read replicas. Okay, so this is how the Aurora DB cluster works, and all these particular database reads and writes will be done on a same shared volume. So coming back to our DB here, our read replica is also created. So when you click on this read replica, so see here we got a different endpoint here, and here we got a same port. So on this endpoint, you can also connect to the database through MySQL Workbench. But only thing is, on this endpoint, you can run only the select queries. So we'll do one thing. We'll create an other thing for this other connection here. So I'll open the Workbench again. Okay. So here we'll create another connection. So this is AWS RDS connection. So this is our AWS read replica. So this is our host name, and the port is same. We are using the same username and password here. So I think there is some issue here. Endpoint root. I think there is some issue with this workbench. So just understand here. So if you want to connect to this reader endpoint, so if you want to connect to this reader endpoint, we will use this endpoint. And if you want to connect to RDS, we'll be using this RDS endpoint. Okay. So in this read replica, we can only perform read operations. Okay. And in this database, like in this RDS main master, like we can perform all the write operations. Okay. So this is how we create a database, and we can connect it, and we will create a, and the how like we will create a read replicas. Okay. Fine. That's it for today. This is all about RDS. Try to create a database and try to connect it using MySQL Workbench, and try to create some tables in that and do that. So, and after that, try don't forget to delete this, because it won't come under like free type. You need to remove all this again. Okay. So here it is still replicating here. So that's the reason it is not connecting now. It will take some time. Okay. So what we'll do is, so we can go here, and so here, so if it is checked, then if you delete the database, it won't uh, allow you to delete. So before deleting, like if you get any errors like disable delete production, then come here and disable this, and go to database and create this, and go to actions and delete the database here. So if you want to create a snapshot while deleting the database, you can do that. So for now, I don't want this data, so I'll uncheck this. So I don't want this to return on backups also. So I'll type delete, and you can. I think first we need to stop this database. Stop temporarily. I think something we need to do. So now I think now we have the read replicas here. So now we'll try to connect to the read replicas. Anyway, it is up now. So we'll go to our MySQL workbench, and again we'll test this connection.